What's up, you guys? Adam here with Anabolic Climbing, and today it's time to talk about my healing protocol. Yep, finally happened. Had a injury that is warranted to take a little bit of a break on the wall. So if you guys are interested in my personal healing protocol and what I'm doing to get back on the wall ASAP, please do not forget to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bell. Helps the channel out tremendously. And without further ado, let's get into it. So before we hop into specifics, let's talk about what happened. So I have complained about having a wrist/thumb injury for a little bit of time now. I've probably been dealing with this for like 2 or 3 years at least. And at a certain point when I would move my hand in this direction, right here on the wrist, basically something started to separate and you would see something sort of pop out of place. And it would be painful to press back on the thumb. At this point, being able to press back on the thumb no longer hurts, but there's still some separation. So going to go get an MRI, figure out exactly what the issue is. Not in serious pain, but I am in enough discomfort and I see this getting worse to where it's worth getting checked up on. And if you guys remember, I have done a healing protocol for climbers before, but I am not using something that mirrors that. I have evolved my preferences a little bit. If you watch that video and that's all you take away as to my preferences, that's fine, but I wanted to go into a little bit of detail on what my current protocol is. Obviously, no protocol would be complete without growth hormone. We know this because it can upregulate collagen synthesis up to 3.9x in healthy young men at doses between 3 to 6 IUs over 2 weeks. Obviously, it can increase serum IGF levels between 3 to 10x over that time. And the growth hormone study showed a 17% larger stimulus versus placebo. And we have empirical data that says that growth hormone can help tendon repairs and soft tissue injuries. This is not a question of not enough human research. We know this. We have established this for decades. Additionally, it's going to help with some cartilage protection on the MMP side, particularly if it needs to be regrown. I felt something sort of a little out of place there. We do have some HGH leading to meaningful improvements in quadriceps for ACLR despite no clear increase in muscle volume. So even in small tissue, it can help on the tendons even if the muscles don't catch up. And HGH likely operates through IGF-1, mediated through muscle function, i.e. satellite cell activation, protein synthesis, etc. I have seen some interesting information sort of promoting lower HGH totals rather than higher. So there's another study that I'm probably going to make a full separate video on for alternative GH protocols. Basically, they gave healthy young men at around 170 pounds between 3 IUs of growth hormone per day up to 18 IUs of growth hormone per day. And the differences in IGF-1 increase was marginal. You got the best bang for your buck at around 3 IUs per day. And as it continued to scale, you did see an increase in a dose-dependent manner, but it was maybe like a 10 to 20% increase. It wasn't like doubling, tripling, quadrupling, even though you're basically 6xing the dose. So there is merit to minimum effective dosing at 3 to 4 IUs versus just pushing stuff to push stuff. I also think that there is a synergy of 1 + 1 = 3 with androgens that makes growth hormone at higher values more interesting. I think particularly for healing protocols where you don't want elevated androgen levels. For example, right now I'm back at TRT levels at 175 milligrams a week. You don't want the systemic inflammation that comes from elevated androgens. So the short answer is you don't want to have superhuman hormones. You just, want to be at baseline so that you can let the collagen synthesis from the growth hormone do its thing. Lastly, the tendon IGF-1 and RHGH supplementation. So yeah, the short answer is when they did tendon biopsies of growth hormone tendons, they showed no maladaptation, so you didn't see any collagen dysplasia. The tendons look great. And if you are, and this is kind of really crucial, not just for climbing in general, but particularly for tendon injuries, you want well-formed tendons. The last thing that you want is to heal a tendon quickly, but the quality and structural integrity of the tendon to be compromised. What is amazing about growth hormone is it will accelerate rates of healing, but the tendon quality itself will be indistinguishable from a natural tendon. So it's really high upside, minimal downside, especially as it comes to tendon healing. If, you're talking about running heightened levels of growth hormone for years at a clip, yeah, that carries a higher risk. Is there a lot of risk for running growth hormone for short term, especially if you don't have cancer? No, it's safe enough to give to women and children. So, next up on the protocol, we are going to include some BPC 157 for three reasons. Number one, increases in growth hormone expression. At least in rodent models, we have seen growth hormone expression increase up to 50% higher with the presence of BPC 157. So obviously a synergistic effect with GH makes a ton of sense. If we're taking extra growth hormone, BPC should be in there. There are anti-inflammatory effects, so we can get the swelling down ASAP so that we can start rebuilding that tendon. And also, and this is probably one of the keys that you guys are aware of, increases in angiogenesis or the formation of new blood vessels, and basically to help nutrient delivery to the injured area. The beauty about this is it really hits in a 1-2-3 combination of increasing the effectiveness of our growth hormone, being able to facilitate healing as fast as possible, and giving it the maximum amount of nutrient delivery possible. Now, the third compound that I'm going to be running is going to be a curveball for a couple of you, but if you're familiar with my channel, you'll understand why it's not the compound you initially expect. Everyone is expecting me to be running TB500 for this, and the answer is no, I will not. Instead, I will be using KPV. So KPV is a tripeptide that is another anti-inflammatory, but it's not TB500. And it does have anti-inflammatory properties, but what's really interesting about it to me is it hastens the time for collagen remodeling to occur. So rather than the inflammation needing to stop before you're able to get some of the remodeling to happen, instead it basically speeds up that process so you can start rebuilding the collagen in the tendon sooner rather than later. So for KPV, it can help with gut issues, at least anecdotally, and it does seem to be able to help at the skin level. It is a pretty potent anti-inflammatory, so you would not want to run this year-round. If the systemic anti-inflammatory properties of KPV could potentially be immunosuppressive, so you wouldn't want to run this and basically tell your immune system, hey, everything is chill, when you actually were sick or had disease that needed to be fighting. But for the case of healing a injury, it makes sense to basically tell the immune system, hey, you don't have to be on heightened alert. Let's pour all of our resources toward rebuilding this compound or this tendon. Now, you guys might be asking yourself, hey, where's TB500? At least in the industry, that is usually what's paired with BPC 157. We've interviewed people on this channel that have had really incredible outcomes running BPC and TB together for their ACL repair, for example. And there's a reason why I'm not running it personally. So I want to say that in everything I've come across, both in studies and in anecdotal evidence with friends of mine, TB500 is absolutely efficacious at healing post-surgery or newly torn either tendons or soft tissue. That's, in my experience, correct. But there's one thing that I have seen repeatedly in the literature that has given me pause. So there was one in vitro study in mice where you basically had cell divisions in healthy adult organs mirroring the same rates of cell division in embryonic cells, which is incredibly rapid. Sure, that is what you would want in the event that you were trying to repair a tendon. You would want that rapid cell division for on top of like the angiogenesis and on top of the anti-inflammatory. Like all of those are awesome properties. But that level of cell division spooks me to no end. I said this in the initial healing peptides guide, and it's one of the reasons I still have not used TB500 to this day. Is it a good time right now to deploy it? Yeah, probably. If that is up with your risk tolerance and that's a thing you want to do, that's a great lever to pull if it adheres to your risk tolerance. For my taste, it's a little bit too risky, which is why I'm only going to keep with those three compounds of BPC, KPV, and growth hormone. So let's talk dosing and what it's going to look like. So initially, once the injury took place, I started directly with 500 micrograms daily of BPC 157 and KPV. 1 week after the swelling subsided, that's when the growth hormone is going to be included. It does not make sense to run growth hormone on day one. It's best when you already have the inflammation lowered, so then all of the growth signals can be ramped harmoniously, and then you can get the maximum synergy. So again, BPC KPV post-surgery, usually a day or two after. And then a week after, when the swelling has subsided, that's when it makes sense to throw in the growth hormone as sort of the cherry on top or icing on the cake. And I'm going to be running that. Hopefully, my duration limit is 4 to 6 weeks. I do not like to run this stuff for more than 4. 6 weeks at the absolute highest, but I think 4 weeks is a good rule of thumb to limit exposure to. And that's the plan. I could probably see myself using growth hormone beyond that 4-week mark, but I will try to limit my KPV and my BPC to 6 weeks at the absolute max, probably 4 weeks in general. So until this guy is healed, I will probably not be on the wall. However, I will still be doing my no-hangs. I will probably continue with my block pulls as long as I can keep my wrist in a position to where it is not compromised. I'm going to try to do some lifting, both some squats and deadlifts, to try to keep some muscular engagement. And yeah, basically continue to be as active as possible while not putting it in compromising positions. So side to side, not really great. Straight up and down, honestly fine. Especially from the ground up, I could still lift a ton. So yeah, just going to try to leave the thumb and the wrist out of it. If I have to strap up, then we strap up and we go. So yeah, obviously it's a bummer whenever chronic injuries get worse. But, you know, whenever an injury occurs, it's best to just treat it as is and not make it worse. And, you know, just got labs pulled. Everything was fine. My E2 was a smidge low, still technically in range. So, you know, going to drop the aromatase inhibitor I was taking so I can raise E2 to help growth hormone out. And yeah, just take some time to get as healthy as possible over the next 4 to 8 weeks and come back strong as fuck. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you. Hopefully you're not dealing with any injuries. If you have any curiosity or questions about the protocol, please leave them in the comments below or on Discord. And yeah, I am Adam with Anabolic Climbing, wishing you good luck. Stay healthy out there. Happy sending. And whenever I do get an MRI or ultrasound on this, I will be giving you guys updates. Anyways, appreciate you all, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.